Hello everybody, this is the fourth installment of our lesson on CSS, HTML and CSS, and this time around I wanted to show you a little bit more about moving elements on the page around, specifically the paragraphs that we've been working with so far, and the idea of using very little code and very little actual formatting to actually get some pretty interesting looking get a pretty interesting looking web page designed. So first thing I want to do is open up our web page, and let's see here, it's in its website 1 folder. And let's open this up in Text Wrangler. And I'm going to also open up the CSS file in Text Wrangler too. I can do that actually by dragging and dropping the document right there into this side window, and that way I'll be able to toggle back and forth pretty easily between the two documents as I work on them and save. So let's take a look at what we have so far. Right now we're really concerned with the style sheet more so than the HTML. When we take a look at the full HTML, there's really not a lot of coding that we needed to do in order to get, and we're going to work on this in Google Chrome this time, there's not a whole lot that we needed to do in order to get this very simple but kind of interesting looking page. We're still working on it and trying to figure out what we want to do with it. So I'm going to open up this browser so that it's just big enough for me to see everything. And let's take a look at the style sheet. Now, what we did in episode 3 was move your individual paragraphs around so that they were organized one on top of the other and positioned absolutely. So you have absolute positioning, position absolute, and I'm just going to make sure everything, all of the code is nice and clean and organized looking. We have absolute positioning on each one of these blocks of code for your individual paragraphs. And so what I want to do now is I want to move them around. Actually, what I want to do is make them a little bit smaller, make each one of these paragraph boxes that we've created with borders a little bit smaller in width. And we will do that by halving their size, essentially. Let's see, we'll give that one 400 and this one 300, and save. Oops, I don't want to save as, I just want to save. And then let's see what happens. Okay, good. Now they've been made a little bit smaller, but they're bunched up now. So what are we going to do? I'm going to make the boxes yet a bit smaller, particularly the middle one, just to see what happens. I want to see if we can get something interesting happening here that we can see on one page. Okay, there we go. We're gonna do that for now. But I also realized that, you know what, there's too much text in each one of these, so I'm going to get rid of a little bit of text and make this a bit more workable so that we can see more of what we're doing just for the purposes of this particular lesson. Oops. Let's delete that and delete this. Let's save. And there we go. Okay, now we have a little less text to have to work with here. Let's position each of our blocks of text, each element within this page, let's position them a little bit differently. We're going to stick with absolute positioning so that when we manipulate the size of the window, what we have doesn't move around. And what I want to do is I'm going to take a look at the style sheet, and we're going to move this one over. We're going to keep it at absolute position. I'm going to put a little space here actually so we can see things better this time. That actually worked for me. We're going to keep it at absolute positioning, but we're going to move it back toward the left 100 pixels. Paragraph 1. Paragraph 2 we're going to, let's see, we're going to keep it right where it is, but we're going to move it to the right 300 pixels, and let's see what that looks like. And then the very bottom one, we're going to position, let's see, we're going to leave it right where it is, but we're going to move it to 150 pixels from the left border. And let's see what happens. I'm trying to arrange them a certain way that I have in my mind, but we'll see if that actually translates to the screen. Okay, that's a little bit better. What I really want to do is I want to push this up and move this over, and let's see. And we're going to move, actually, you know what? We're going to move paragraph 3 over to here. Let's do that. In order to do that, what I want to do is I want to make paragraph 3 match the top border of paragraph 1. So I'm going to give 3 the same number of pixels from the top as paragraph 1. And I'm going to move it over, instead of left 100, I'm going to make it go over left 250. Okay, there we go. That's a little bit better. Let's move it over to the left a little bit more. Let's say 450. Okay, that's closer. Let's move it back over again to 350. Okay, that's a little bit more like what I was looking for. Then what we're going to do is what I want to do is move this box, which happens to be paragraph 2 still. I'm going to move it down slightly and toward the right. So box paragraph, the box for paragraph 2, I want it to go down from the top, let's say another 50 pixels. So it's from the top 250 pixels. And then I want it to go to the right. From the left, I want it to be 350 pixels. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, very much better, but I'm going to move it up a little bit. So instead of 250 pixels from the top, let's see what 220 pixels looks like. Perfect. Now you can sort of get a sense of how these borders are starting to give us some interesting design options that we can work with. Now, one of the things that I would eventually do in the end is move all of these down and to the right just a little bit more, and then maybe put a header up above. But we're going to save that for a different lesson. Right now, I just kind of like the arrangement. I'm going to move this border for paragraph 3 over here and leave this open though. And let's see what that looks like. So instead of border right, which is what this is, instead of border right for paragraph 3, we're going to do border left. And we're just going to change it from border right to border left and save. There. That's what I wanted. Let's give it a top border too. And I think that we'll be complete working on that. You remember that every border, whether we're using the command for border or border left, border top, border, anytime you have a border has 3 values. The value for borders are the number of pixels it's going to be in width, the style of border, solid, dotted, dashed, whatever, and then its color, and then an ending semicolon. Save. There. Okay, now we have an interesting arrangement. Paragraph 1, paragraph 2, and paragraph 3 arranged and with some borders that look kind of interesting. And I think that I'm going to keep them there like that and just see what happens. Now, one of the things that I also want to let you know about is that you can give any one of these boxes within this paragraph a background color. And so what we're going to do then is give one of them a different color that helps us to see the text a little bit better. What I think I'll do is give this one a color of blue and see what happens. So this is paragraph 2. Let's give paragraph 2 a save. There we go. So now we have a blue background, but that makes it a little bit harder to see the text. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the text from color black, which is the 6 sixes with the color value excuse me, not the value, but the color attribute there, and we're going to change the color of the text to white, which is 6 Fs. There. Now that's much easier to see, and what we can do too is give a background color to paragraph 1, a different one to 1. Background color, let's say red. I don't know what the hexadecimal code is for that, but we can just type red as a generic color and see what happens. And we're going to make the color. You're not going to be able to see black on top of red. So what we're going to do is we're going to have the text the color of white. And again, white is 6 Fs. Save and refresh, and there we go. So now we have red, white, and blue backgrounds on our individual within the individual borders of each of our blocks of paragraph. Okay, so in this particular lesson, all we did was play around with absolute positioning again, moved our paragraphs, which are surrounded by each of them has their own border, and only one has a full border on both sides. The other ones have borders on 2 sides and then 4 sides, and we left the other sides open just for the effect. And then what we did is change the color of the fonts in each one of these boxes of paragraphs with just a little bit of coding, changing some code that was already there. And finally, we just positioned everything absolutely. So again, all we did was change the color of the fonts with this command. We kept everything in absolute positioning and just moved things around using this section of each block of code to figure out where we wanted each one of our paragraphs to be positioned from the top of the browser and from the left of the browser window. And finally, let's see, and that looks like all that we did really, but we got some new and interesting. We gave this page a new and interesting look that we can then continue to tweak, move each of these elements around, and in the next episode, in number 5, what I think I'm going to do is show you how to get some 3-dimensional effect on your web page simply by giving you gradient on the background color of the body of the entire document. I'll go ahead and end this one, and I will talk to you in the next recording. Thank you very much.